Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let's get into the Word of God. We are going to continue the series on James chapter 3, verse 17. And yesterday we looked at the first trait of wisdom from above. And before we continue on to the next part, I want to point out that it says here in verse 17, but the wisdom that is from above is first pure. So what we talked about yesterday, the purity of the wisdom from above, which can be found in the Word of God, that purity has to be first and foremost, front and center. The moment it is tainted, it is no longer wisdom from above. So then before we move on to the next one, if it already fails the first part, even if the next part qualifies, but the first part does not, then it's null. It has been tainted, and it is not wisdom from above. So let's go on here. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable. See that word then. So first pure, then what we're going to look at today, peaceable. Peaceable. That means able to live in peace and be peaceful. And I want to point out that there is a difference between being peaceable and being a rug that people can just walk all over. That is not what the Bible is trying to teach here. You know, you have moments, because Jesus, again, he's the ultimate standard, right? When he lived on the earth, he was peaceable. But there were moments where he would contend with the Pharisees, and he even called them, "O ye generation of vipers." And at first, you may look at that and say, whoa, that's not being very peaceable. But remember, look at the first part. It must first be pure, right? And the Pharisees were not pure. They were corrupting God's order and God's the position of the ministers of God. They were absolutely corrupting that. And so Jesus had to straighten that out first, and he was bold and brave enough to be able to do that, because peaceable does not mean that you just agree with everything and you agree with everyone because you don't want to ruffle feathers. No, Jesus ruffled plenty of feathers. Okay, plenty. In fact, when he got into the temple, he saw how corrupt it was. They were doing money exchanges and profiting off of the people who were there to worship God and give alms and sacrifices to God. He turned the tables over, and he started whipping some of these corrupt merchants, telling them to get out because they have turned his temple from a house of prayer to a den of thieves. That's pretty incredible. So again, I want to really stress here that peaceable does not mean weak. Jesus was meek, but he was not weak. Weak means you are not capable of defending yourself, of harming others. But meek means that you are capable, but you choose not to. And peaceable is kind of on the same lines. And a good example of how Jesus was a peaceable man was how he was able to go to Samaria and give the gospel. Because remember, the Jews and the Samaritans hated each other, right? They hated each other. In fact, anytime they crossed paths, it would often result in, the slurring of names, calling each other, and I'm sorry, not the slurring of names, the calling of slurs and names to each other, sometimes even spitting at each other, and sometimes even just going to blows, straight up fighting, and sometimes even leading to murder. That's how tense it is between the Samaritans and the Jews. They really despised each other. And yet, Jesus was peaceable enough, being a Jew, to be able to go over there and give the gospel of peace to them, the good news, of himself, of Jesus Christ. And so that is what peaceable is. And the wisdom from above is peaceable. That doesn't mean you go along with whatever the world says, because again, it must first be pure, unspotted from the world. But once you get past that purity, we must make an effort to be peaceable. That is the wisdom from above. To be peaceable people. We must be peaceable. And of course, that takes effort. And but that is a Christ-like feature, and that is, in fact, one of the traits of wisdom from above. So if you get any kind of advice or any kind of quote-unquote wisdom that is encouraging you to be contentious, to be to hate someone, to basically the opposite of peaceable, well, then you know that piece of quote-unquote wisdom is earthly. It is not heavenly. But wisdom from above is peaceable. Thank you so much for joining me today. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.